Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session. Stephen and I are together in the Cleveland studio. It's good to see you, man. Got to see you a little bit this weekend. It was nice. You're doing your entrepreneurial thing. I'm doing my road whore thing.
Would you say road whore?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an endearing term we use for folks who travel for work.
Who's we?
Me. me and two other guys.
Okay.
Mike Fontenot and L. I forget his last name. Anyway, weird week in Trump world. So last week we talked about the raid, and you did. Also, you know what? Fair. I wish I could push back. You know, last week you did a good job of pointing out that it's called a raid, and everyone and the Trump folks wanted to make it sound like this aggressive attack by the FBI, and it wasn't. And the more we've learned, the more your point is validated, that they had been requesting documents for a long time. They didn't get them. They finally said, we're done with your nonsense. We're coming in. Trump has used this as a huge fundraising opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
It's also not just the fact that they had been negotiating back and forth. Trump's attorneys, whether they knew it or not, signed a declaration that there were no more confidential documents within Trump's possession, right? And then, White House, Secret Service, DOJ, they're all just like, well, that's not true because we don't have this, this, and this. And so if they're not here, then that means someone took them out, and he's the only one who's taken anything out. So we're going to have to assume that they're in his possession, or they already knew that these particular documents were in his possession, and they were just saying that they didn't have them anymore. Either way, DOJ says, all right, well, look, if you can't act like an adult, then we'll just do this,
right.
We'll do this the fucking hard way. So they get a warrant, they go in, they're like, look, we're going to these, like in a warrant, you go through and you say where you're going to go, in the home or the facility that you're going to go remove, whatever you believe is there. And so chances are they knew where certain things were. And once you get in there, there's, you've got things in plain sight and everything else. So they start to go through the boxes, they pull them all out. And then they start to go through it and come to find that the stuff that he said he didn't have, right? He had, right? Like, so, there's some issues that he's facing because there's the Espionage Act that he has violated, right? If you know what's in the law.
Is it that black and white?
It is. Now, look, the Espionage Act sounds very daunting and like you're going to prison but it's not. Okay. Right? I mean, the whole point of it was so that people wouldn't do this very fucking thing. Right? I mean, because even if it's accidental or innocuous or it's sentimental, whatever the reason is, it's dangerous, right? Taking confidential records out and not having a proper chain of command, not having, proper authorization to know how to handle those documents, which no one in the Trump administration did, right? Because he hired a bunch of people from the outside who had no real concept of the administrative aspect of being the president of the United States. And so there's an actual risk to doing this, right? And so the DOJ is wanting to make sure that this doesn't become a problem. People are immediately going to, he was selling shit to the Saudis and the Russians. Right. And look, I think the reality is that, I brought it up last week that, like, look, you're doing business with the Saudis, right? Like, you're hosting this golf tournament at your golf course, right? And then you're also fighting the government on giving them back confidential top secret documents, right? Now, it doesn't matter whether they were nuclear or whatever. It's just the perception is bad, right? Like, I don't believe that, like, I don't know and I don't believe, or I don't necessarily
You have no reason
think,
to believe that.
right. But what I'm saying is that it's still a really, really bad look, right? That the DOJ is asking you for confidential records, and then you're saying no, fighting them left and right, saying that you don't have them when you do, and you're making deals with the Saudis for them to come and play at your golf course in New Jersey.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's funny to me. I've been watching a lot of the news on this stuff. And if you listen to the Young Turks or watch MSNBC, they make it sound like, Trump is selling nuclear secrets to the Saudis. Mm-hmm. There's, to my knowledge, no evidence of that.
No, there's not.
And honestly, I've tried to put together in my mind what does that mean? If you tell the Saudis, here's the nuclear code, okay, what are they going to do with that?
Okay. So you're going down a road you don't want to go here.
No, my road is the road I'm going down is
what's the big deal about giving Saudis?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Have I not been outspoken enough about my faith in our relationship with the Saudi government?
I don't understand what your point
is.
My
point is that I don't know what they could have that would legitimately lead to a threat. Now, do I trust the Saudi government as far as a threat?
Wait. That's just it, Jim. You have no fucking idea what confidential documents are, right? I understand you understand the concept of confidentiality, but you don't you can't assume anything, right? He was the president of the United States. There was a lot of shit put in front of him, right? Whether he understood it or not is a whole different conversation. Right, whether because of his lack of
his competence,
right, his lack of competency, should some of that stuff been put in front of him? No, but some of that stuff that gets put in front of these guys, right? The question is, is he looking at schematics? Someone may very well have put schematics of a nuclear sub, fighter jet, or something in front of him.
So it's not as simple as can launch a missile of ours. It's can we assemble one of our own?
Right, the possibilities of what he could have access to are pretty endless, and so we can't assume that it's all harmless just because that makes the argument easier, right? He's the president of the United States, so now all of a sudden we're downplaying and saying that he's literally just a figurehead. He's not. We don't have a figurehead. Our president of the United States, even though he doesn't have, let's say, the control of a king, although Trump may want it, there's still a lot of shit that gets run through him that's pretty fucking critical to us not being blown up by somebody else.
All right.
He's the commander-in-chief.
He was.
He was. As POTUS, he's the commander-in-chief, though, so he's going to see some pretty wild shit and have access to it. So,
domestically there's that risk, right? I guess I was thinking more into the would a foreign government be trying to seize something they can't? But could they?
I also don't know why you're saying they can't. What are you basing that off of?
I am not worried about. Look,
have you met China?
Well, yeah, okay.
Seriously, those motherfuckers.
Have I met China? No.
Those motherfuckers will look at something in a picture and fucking recreate it. I think this is a bad time to underestimate some of these bad actors and their capabilities.
Okay.
I
actually agree with you. I'm just kind of
it's just odd that that's the route that you're going. We give them nuclear codes. What can they do with those? Motherfucker, do you really want to find out? That's one where you don't want to find out that you were wrong.
Agreed. I kind of want to flip the script on that one, and I think I did.
What?
I flipped the script. I'm the one who's overly attacking Trump, and
but it's not an attack on Trump. It's what I'm saying is there's a reason they're doing this process, and the DOJ did not want to make this into a big deal, right? And I am not saying that Trump, right, as much as people want to believe that Trump was selling secrets and he's doing all, I think, is he trying to cover something up? Who knows? Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. And I don't necessarily care at this point because the DOJ has got involved and said, look, we're taking the shit back. Right? And that's what this is. I don't believe, if they're going to charge him with something, they may charge him for this specifically, for taking the documents out, and it's going to be a process crime. Right? This isn't going to be the big indictment that's going to throw Trump in jail forever. This isn't what that is. Right? Like the DOJ is pissed because he didn't follow the process. Yep. Right? And there's ways to do this because the narrative for a while was, we talked about this last week as well. Oh, Obama did the same thing. Obama did not. Obama took millions of documents, but they're in his library, which is managed by the National Archives. Right? So Trump wanted to archive all of this stuff and have it on display for everybody. Then there's a way that you go about doing it. You just don't pack it up in your fucking truck and drive off with it. And that's what he's facing here. And people are saying it's unprecedented that they did this. Well, he's the only motherfucker who decided he could just walk out of the White House with all these documents and just think that it was going to be okay. So yes, it's unprecedented because he took unprecedented action.
And that carries over to a bunch of things, especially January 6th. Like, it's unprecedented that a president encouraged a coup.
Foments, enough coup. Anger to end up in what we saw on that day, and that's been a lot of, like, people say, oh, no president's ever been treated this way, and they've been saying it since he got elected, but no president has ever acted the way that he's acted to this point, right? And it's like, well, Hillary Clinton won. Hillary Clinton was never president, remember? When she was secretary,
as I recall, she was not president.
Right. And when she was Secretary of State, you guys said you blamed Benghazi on her, and that woman sat up there for I don't know how many days or weeks and answered questions upon question, even if they were dumb, even if they were, GOP members grandstanding. She sat there, she took it, she never got angry. She just answered every question that you threw at her, and whether you like her or not, that is a fact that you can't change. Right, like, so you can sit there and say, well, Hillary Clinton needs what does she need? What do you like? What crime did she commit? Right, like what that we know of that we can prove, right? Because everyone thinks that that everybody dies around them or whatever. Okay, fine, but like the actual shit that we know that's not conspiracy bullshit. Like, she stood and she's answered for. Where this guy, on the other hand, Trump. He just whines and cries that he's the biggest victim in the world, and he stirs up his idiot followers, and they say the same thing for him, right?
I'm glad you said that, because multiple times in the last week or two, I've read things about how Kevin McCarthy and others are saying, when we're back in charge, we're going to come at you, Democrats, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, but you've been doing that. Bill Clinton got investigated for what were considered to be shady investment opportunities in Whitewater, Arkansas, that ultimately settled to, you got a blowjob that you lied about. That was months worth of investigation. That was special prosecutor. That was fucking primetime news every night. I can make the
argument that the investigation into what was going on in Arkansas was valid, right? But then, apparently, there wasn't anything there, or there wasn't enough there where they could put the case together. So then they settled on lying about a blowjob.
Yep.
Right, and turning it into this giant spectacle, and fucking up Monica Lewinsky's life. We've seen this from them. So for them to say that this is something new,
we're going to come after you. Like, you've been doing it for decades.
I think everybody on the Democratic side is prepared for it. The other thing that cracks me up about this is that I watched some reporter, I don't know who the journalist was, but they were outside of Mar-a-Lago. This was last week, and they were interviewing people out there who were Trump supporters. They had their flags and they had their signs or whatever, and the number of people saying that this is the level of scrutiny that they should put on Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is the one, and that always killed. Hunter Biden is a. I
still give shit about that.
Like, he's a fucking he's a drug addict. Yes, he's the president's son, but he has no position in the government. Now look, my other thing is fucking investigate him. If he did something sketchy with the Chinese,
I don't give a shit.
Or whoever,
Ukrainians, I think.
Well, no, but they're saying that he did a deal with the Chinese, and they can't figure out which one they want to pin him for. He did do a deal with the Chinese. He was working in the Ukraine. Like, investigate him for all of it. if he did something wrong, whether it was tax evasion or illegal lobbying, money laundering, whatever it is, pin his ass to the grid. Arrest him for drug possession, gun possession. I don't care, right? Like I really don't give a fuck, right? And now if you can tie it to Joe Biden, and there's a legitimate tie that Joe Biden was taking funny money and filtering it through Hunter Biden, then take him down to just for the fact that he's fucking an idiot, right? Like, because if Hunter Biden is your son, you know that he's a complete dipshit. So if you think that you're going to run your criminal enterprise through that dipshit, then you deserve to be taken down. So I have no issue. I have no issue with them if they take Joe Biden down because of Hunter Biden, something legitimately that Hunter Biden actually did, that Hunter and Joe conspired to do something, then yes, take them down. Right? But otherwise, what I think is all you're going to find there is that Hunter Biden probably didn't report money that he had coming in. And so there's probably some tax evasion there. Obviously, there's a drug problem. He's made multiple videos with hookers and guns and everything else. So I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't take an FBI SWAT team to spend any time near him to be able to bust in and catch him on something, in the vice world. But Hunter Biden is, who the fuck cares?
100% agree. I get this, my right-wing friends always, why are they investigating Hunter Biden?
Because he's not a government official.
I don't care.
Because he's not a government official.
Exactly.
Right? And they are investigating him. Like, let's be clear. He is being investigated mostly for tax evasion. And if there's something there as it relates to that money and a connection to Joe Biden, other than just this is his son, then I trust somebody will find it.
And look, you can say what you want about Joe Biden being kind of dopey, kind of out of touch. He knows that Hunter Biden is a train wreck. And he's trying to protect his kid, and I won't ever fault a parent for doing that. But, he's smart enough to say, this kid's not going to be part of my administration in any way whatsoever. And, he also had to deal with losing his other son. I mean, Beau Biden died of cancer, and that whole thing with Hunter and whatever, it's just a mess in general.
I don't think that's fair, though, to put, Beau Biden's death anywhere near this, right? Like, yes, that is a tough thing. Like, now, if you want to say Beau's death is something that Hunter struggles with, which is part of his issues with addiction.
Well, and Joe's desire to protect his remaining son.
Right. I mean, but even still, but Joe Biden protecting his remaining son doesn't lead him down the path of taking money from the Chinese.
Agreed. Oh, if there's a bigger picture, I'm with you.
Right. I mean, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like that, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like it doesn't track. Like if the fear for Joe Biden is if his thought process is I want to protect my son, I've already lost one, and I believe when his wife was killed in that car crash, I think there was a child. There was a child. Yeah. I've lost two children. I've lost a wife. I want to protect my remaining son. It just doesn't seem to track that the way he goes about that would be involving him in a criminal enterprise. Like I agree with that. Let's
talk about criminal enterprises for a minute, because ancillary to Trump, Rudy Giuliani and Lindsey Graham are facing serious legal issues. Rudy has been subpoenaed to appear in Georgia over fraud, and Lindsey Graham also subpoenaed to appear over basically lying about voter fraud. And I have nothing good to say about either Lindsey Graham or Rudy Giuliani. I mean, Rudy Giuliani has become an absolute clown. And we've talked about that multiple times. Yeah. But now I can't travel because of my physical condition. But here I am buying plane tickets with cash.
This is the same guy also who said that remember that slap on the back in the grocery store?
Oh yeah.
Where he said if he wasn't in such phenomenal shape, it might have done some serious damage to him. But now he can't fly because.
And by the way, that pat on the back, I've received that from you
I mean, I don't know if I'm good to pull this.
No, I mean, okay, but, yes. If you wanted to physically alter someone, you could. But you've literally like, hey, how you doing? What happened to Rudy was, hey, how you doing? And you're a douchebag.
Yeah, but look, he's absolutely a clown. He's absolutely like I can't even call him a caricature of himself because I don't know. Maybe that's who he was all along. I don't know. I don't know what all this means. Like, I mean, like I would, if I were them, I would be concerned. The question is, how far really are the prosecutors going to take this, to push this, to actually charge them? I think I'll have more to say once I see a charge, an indictment, and know how serious the prosecutors are taking it. I think there's definitely a risk. They should definitely be concerned, but we'll see.
So Michael Cohen, a guy who's had his fair share of legal issues, who I've grown to have kind of a fondness for, and you and I have butted heads about that. But he said that Trump is going to look for a scapegoat, and that Rudy's going to be it. And the question I have is,
whoa, stop!
I'm not
right
stop.
there.
I'm
wait,
not
wait,
stop.
stop,
Okay, go.
stop.
All right,
stop.
bring it.
Okay, so Michael Cohen. First of all, we know who and what Michael Cohen is. Also, that statement is not some brilliant inside information that he's got from all his years of experience. You know why?
Because he was a scapegoat.
No, because I said the same fucking thing about Trump and Rudy Giuliani 2 goddamn years ago, that Trump was going to use Rudy as a fucking scapegoat. Anybody with any fucking common sense could see that at some point Rudy was going to be a sacrificial lamb. The question was not if, but when. So whether it came from Michael Cohen or not doesn't give it any more sort of validity because because that guy's got some insider information.
I find your disdain for Michael Cohen to be funny. I'm sorry.
It's not. Look, the guy doesn't bring anything to the table.
I want him on our show.
Okay, I mean,
would you?
No, I wouldn't.
If I reach out to him, you would not.
Because, dude, you know me and sideshow bits. Like I don't find that shit humorous. Like the dude brings nothing to the table. He's got the intellect of this fucking dry erase marker. He what did he do? Right? Like he was just a fucking bag man for Trump. Right? He wasn't an actual lawyer because he couldn't, because he sucked it. He literally sucked at it.
I think we exposed right here. You're a lawyer. I'm an engineer. Okay. So you as a lawyer are like, this guy sucks at my profession.
No,
fuck this guy.
Fuck.
Really? Okay.
There's a lot of shitty lawyers out there.
I know. We've talked about a lot of
there's a lot.
I got 3 of them on the board right now.
Trump's a lawyer, but I mean,
Trump is not a lawyer. Rudy is a.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. I mean, oh, you're making our profession look bad. Like people have been doing that like since the inception of lawyering. My issue with Michael Cohen though is that he's trying to capitalize as being this Trump insider, but he was never a Trump insider, right? Like he knows.
Sure, he was. Come on,
listen to me. He did dirt for Trump.
Yes.
Right? But Trump kept him, like, listen, that dude was not, he thinks that he was more important than he was, but clearly, you want to know why he does it? He's not worth a fucking, like, one, Trump ran that dude over with the bus multiple times, and what did we get out of it? I'm sorry. What if he was so critical to the whole Trump thing, what did he go to jail for though? Do you remember what he went to jail for?
Lying to Congress?
Do you remember? Go back and look what he actually went to jail for. But look, if Cohen was so tied in, right? Don't you think they probably would have extracted something from him that was worth an actual shit? Or is he just so stone cold? Stone cold killer. You can't break Michael Cohen.
Your disdain for him
on, man.
It's so entertaining to me.
It's just like I have disdain for people who fucking suck. And Michael Cohen fucking sucks. He's not like he's not. I mean, like there's multiple people on. He's
not Alan Weisselberg.
No, now Weisselberg is somebody that I absolutely would want to have on the show. right? Because listen, I think that dude does know more, does have access to, but what's interesting is the way his deal works is he's just pleading to what he did.
Yeah, tax evasion and
tax evasions and
documentary misinformation,
all that stuff.
Yep.
With this, with a specific agreement that he's not turning on Trump, but we'll see where that goes. I think it's interesting that that's the deal that he got.
I do too. Now that is a state of New York issue, not a federal issue.
Right.
There's so many legal things going on. I mean, back to the whole, this is unprecedented. Yes, it is, but when's the last time a former president had so many ongoing legal issues? Say what you want about Bill Clinton. I mean, Bill Clinton clearly did some shady stuff, or at least clearly lied about blowjobs. But him, Nixon, Reagan, maybe. The history of presidents. Reagan slipped a lot of shit.
Reagan had a lot of people go to prison, like real prison for some minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, so look, I think.
I guess I'm saying our presidents are all corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with Trump and what's going on with him right now, though, is that there were a lot of people. If you could pull a lot of these GOP members that are now being silent, like they're not openly supporting Trump, but they won't reject him in any way, shape, or form.
They're terrified.
I think they would tell you that this is the type of shit that they were concerned about, right? Like everybody knew that Trump was dirty. Like anybody in New York and anybody who knows anything about real estate could tell you that he was dirty and that the risk was, his exposure on a lot of these deals that he flat out lied about. Right, and so, and then what we come to find out that you've got people embezzling money, people evading taxes, you've got hush money, you've got payoffs, and you've got all this sort of shit. And people knew, 5, 6, 10 years ago, right, that this is what like his whole entire empire was paper mache, right? This is why he couldn't get in the NFL,
right.
Right, the NFL was just like, no.
Look how different the world would be. I do want to talk NFL later on, but I do also want to talk about something you showed me yesterday because it was really awful.
Okay.
And that was, you showed me a picture, and it was a picture of an elephant in red, white, and blue with a star. You said, "What do you see here?" And I looked at it and said, "Oh, it's an elephant. It's clearly a Republican symbol, red, white, and blue, pro-America, blah, blah, blah." And then 10 seconds later, my brain started working. And it was 3 KKK hoods in the shadow of the elephant, so to speak, or in the blank space. And this is Polk County, Alabama, if I remember the county right. And you could not be more blatantly racist and pro-Klan than that image. And I was a little bit embarrassed for myself in terms of not picking up on it immediately, but it was awful.
Yep.
And I'm going to throw the ball into your court and say,
well, look, I think, something like that, people say, I think it was actually the Lawrence.
Did you tweet it?
No, I did. I was just looking for it, and I didn't. But I'll track it down and tweet it out later. But I think it was actually Lawrence County in Alabama. They put it out there, and then they backpedaled and said, "Oh, this is a complete accident. We didn't mean to. It doesn't represent our blah 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 blah." Right? I mean, and so after a while, like people, look, you can try to make the argument that like, hey, we just looked at it real quick and we didn't see the hoods, and we're just trying to tweet it out, and everything happens fast on Twitter. We didn't realize it, and you can't edit tweets. Right? It's like, well, motherfucker, 1, you can delete them, right? You may not be able to edit them, but you can definitely delete them. 2, like, at minimum, you should probably look at whatever you're about to tweet out, since you are an actual, like a broader organization, right? The Lawrence County GOP representative. So you could at least check in proof. Read what you're about to send out, considering the message and who your target audience is. So if you say that you're this professional organization and you do proofread and you don't just tweet out any old thing, then so now we have the issue of, well, then you looked at it, said it was fine, and you put it out there, right? Like, so you can make the argument that it was a mistake or it's accidental, but why do you even have it as an option to put out there? Right? I mean, it's an elephant with a giant red space and in the red space, it's between the legs, and there's 3 white KKK hoods with the 2 eyes cut into the hood, right? Like 2 black eyes cut into the hood. So why do you even have that as an option to be tweeted out?
No, right? it was again when you showed it to me, I went, oh, I see that. Oh no,
right?
And definitely not an accident. Definitely
right.
not.
And look, but whether it's an accident or not doesn't matter because, again, it's about perception, right? And the GOP has an issue with perception and race and racism. They were struggling with it. They're struggling with it less because they're being more open about their acceptance of racism in some degrees, right? Like, people are saying things and they're just like, well, I don't know why why the things that we feel need to be censored, and just because it happens to be a negative thing about black people doesn't make it racist, right? Like, I mean, like, you're starting to hear more of these arguments. You're starting to hear, blatantly racist things come out of people's mouths, and we're seeing less and less recourse for it as well, right? Like, there's backlash, but then people are just like, you know what? You can have all the backlash you want. I'm still going to go about my day. I'm still going to go about my way of doing things, and it's not really impacting them. They're gaining support. People are rallying behind them. So you can sit there and tell me that you're not racist, but then you do racist things and you support racist things, and then you say it's not racism, it's just free speech. I'm starting to struggle with this.
So I was at the Bills backer bar in Cleveland yesterday, and there's a guy who I had some thoughts about. He was open about. Well, he wasn't sure if he could still support the NFL because of Colin Kaepernick, and I was like, that elicits a thought from me. And then the shooting in Buffalo happened in a clear racist-based attack. I mean, the guy that shot up the Tops supermarket in the east side of Buffalo flat out said, like, he wanted to start a race war. This guy drove to Buffalo multiple times with bags of groceries and hung out with people there and, did a lot of stuff I really respected and admired. And I've been working, so I haven't, physically joined it. I did donate. So I saw him yesterday, and I told him I really respected and admired what he's done. And he said, yeah, thanks. It's, I want to do what I can to help. And I felt great. And then he followed that with, and the whole media wants to paint us out as white supremacists and racists. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And I just wanted to parry the
You know what's fucked up about that, though, is...
There's lots of things fucked up about that.
Well, no, I mean, the fucked up part about it is, in the grand scheme of things, where we're at today, what that guy just said really wasn't even that big of a deal.
What do you mean?
It wasn't. So he did a good thing.
He did a good thing,
right?
Following a horrible event.
Following a horrific event. And then he's just like, look, part of the reason why I did it is to prove that I'm not this thing that I'm being accused of.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really, honestly, of all the shit that you can hear just come out of people's mouths in the media, from politicians, just from people sitting at a bar, that's not even, when you told me about that, it didn't even register with me. And that's why I was kind of pushing you. I'm like, what is, I don't understand what the issue is, right? I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, white conservatives have an issue with race. They don't handle it well, right? So if this guy's way of dealing with that is look, here's a situation where I could sit back and not do anything, right? I can sit back and not do anything and not be accused of being a racist, or I can I can go do something. And part of his reason for doing it is just to show, look, if I were racist, I wouldn't do this. I get where people are going to be like, well, he shouldn't say anything at all. He should, okay, but people do things. People do good, charitable things all the time, and then say, because I did this, you can't say that, right? not that uncommon. And so this is not one where I look at the guy and just like, oh, you terrible person. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not saying you're a terrible person at all. But no, you're making a good point. And I guess...
Like, you can't tell them that they're racist, and then they do a good thing that isn't racist, and then they point it out, and it's just like, well, no, never mind, you're still racist.
Again, I'm not saying he's a racist at all. I am criticizing the right-wing media for their...
Well, go back. What does white mean? Right-wing media.
Right-wing media.
Right-wing media have to do with him and your assessment of him in that moment.
Because he is thinking he is being branded a certain way. And he said, you and I...
He's not thinking that. He is being branded a certain way.
Well, he said he and I, so then I'm being branded a certain way. Right?
Who, you?
Me, yes.
How are you?
He said, you and I are branded as racists and white supremacists because of the media.
He may think that you're a conservative.
He certainly does think that.
Okay.
It's... All right. First of all, overall big picture... It's awesome that he made an effort to do the right thing, and I respect him for it. And I made a point. But
fast forward to the part where you think he's not being branded.
Because I think he's being branded by right wing media.
But I think no. Who else is doing it though?
You see, I don't think I watch enough MSNBC and CNN and Fox and OAN. I watch all kinds of.
That's fine, but just you can get. There's plenty of other areas where progressives and Democrats exist.
Yes.
Where you know damn well what they're saying, what their message is about the GOP and conservative. I guarantee you can open up Twitter right now, and I guarantee you can go to you remember Nina Turner?
I do.
Okay, I guarantee you can go to Nina Turner's feed right now on Twitter, and there is some reference to conservatives and racism. I promise. I don't follow her. Like she's a Cleveland woman. I don't follow her. I don't like her. I don't agree with a lot of her messaging, a lot of anything she says. But I promise you can go on her Twitter feed right now, and you are going to see something about conservatives being racist. Right? You're going to go and there's a laundry list of people on the left where you can go on their social media and you can see exactly what they're saying about the conservative party. Or about the conservative movement and about the GOP and about Republicans and about the people who follow Trump. And so whether it's specifically on MSNBC, right, or CNN or whatever the progressive liberal news is, right, and where you're saying, all right, well, it's all on Fox News, so I'm blaming Fox News for this. Like, listen, the Democrats, the progressives, and they're not innocent in all of this with the things that they say and the things that they do. Okay. And I'm not saying that there's not reason to think about racism when it comes to the conservative movement, especially as it has manifested itself in the way of Trump right now.
I mean, we just talked about the Alabama thing.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, right? Like, so, and I said they have an issue, right? Like, they have an issue, and then they do shit like this. So how am I, how am I or anyone supposed to sit there and push back against the idea of racism when you do shit like this that really makes no possible sense? Like, you threw an image with the KKK hoods on it, but you're saying that you're not racist, and then you get mad when people brand you as a racist. What the fuck am I supposed to do with that, right? So they do have an issue, right, by their own action, but there is a group of people out there calling them this, right? Broad blanket, broad statement, general, going over the whole, classifying an entire group as one thing, where some people who are not that political are pushing back and like, look, just because I voted for this person or just because I don't agree with you on this, don't brand me a racist. And sometimes they push back, right, when they say, look, I am doing this thing, right? This thing that is the complete opposite of racism. So if you could stop with this whole racist talk, I would appreciate it, right?
No, you're making perfect sense. I agree, and I understand where his name is Greg. I won't give a last name. Comes off on this. Like, he feels like he's being branded inappropriately. And he's taking actions that show he is not what he's being branded as. My beef is that as a 50-something white guy. When 50-something white guy wants to play the victim, I'm just like, stop it. You're not. Now, what you just said is true. There are accusations is too strong a word, but there's branding that comes with.
I mean, there's branding, accusations, all of it, right? It's all there, and a lot of it. Let's be clear. a lot of it is justified based on the actions of the conservatives in the GOP and the Trump loyalists. But at the same time, as much as you can say that the narrative and the talking points, you can argue that they're justified. You still have plenty of people who, like, we cannot paint every single person in a group with the same brush because, at the flip side, we're sitting there saying that, police are indiscriminately going out and killing black people.
Right.
Right. When we know that's not the case. Right? We know it's not the case. It happens way more frequently than it should. But if you're a black person that's just driving around the street terrified of any interaction that you have with police, then I have concerns about your thought process. Right? Like that should not be your existence. Now, it also depends on where you live, though. I will say that. Right? There's certain places, right, like on both ends of the spectrum where that should be a legitimate concern. But for everybody in the middle, probably not so much. But I guess the point is that if you're gonna decry racism and say that each person should just be judged on their individual character and not based on a specific trait such as race, then you kind of need to return the favor, right? You can't brand every conservative, every Trump supporter, every whatever as a racist until they prove themselves to be such. Right?
And the guy I'm talking about clearly is not. I mean, he's now. It frustrated me because he wanted to do the whole victim thing, and I don't want to hear the victim speech at all. I'm just worn out with it. And this is one of those situations where, as a 50-something white guy, you hear 50-something white guys talk about how unfair the world is to them, and I'm like, you're the same people who are saying that all these liberals are whining about pronouns and this and that, but yet here I am, I'm a victim, and you're not. And that just bugs the shit out of me. So yeah, I'm probably projecting and overreaching a bit, but I stand by my fundamental statement that the victim, woe is me thing is just frustrating as fuck for me to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with that, but I also agree with it across the board. Right, I disagree with the idea. I disagree with the victim mentality across the board. Like, even if you are a legitimate victim of even the most heinous of crimes, I think the answer is to always fight back like a motherfucker. Period. Point blank. The end. If you truly believe you are being victimized, then the answer is to fight your ass off. Right, to completely disarm and disable who and what is attacking you, and complaining about being a victim, right? Telling the story about it, only going to get you so far. At some point, you have to put action to word, right? You have to legitimately and you have to be strategic on how you fight, because ultimately you want to never be a victim again. And so if you feel that you're a victim, you got to figure out why that is, and then you got to fucking fight, right? And then you got to find the right ways to fight, right? Because you can sit there in a fight and just swing your arms blindly, and you can still get your ass beat, right? So you have to be strategic in how you fight, but ultimately, if you truly feel that you're a victim, then you got to fight. Like when people talk about January 6th, right? Because I get 2A conservative guys. Just like, oh, these people, it was the will of the people, and they were foot pushing back against their government, and, we shouldn't be treating them this harshly because they believed what they were doing was right. You know what my answer to them is?
Let's go.
Look, you want to overthrow the government. It's very simple. Don't fuck it up. You want to overthrow this government, then you better fucking overthrow it. You better take the White House. You better take the Capitol building. You better take the Pentagon. You better take control over all the systems. Don't fuck it up. And then you better make sure that they can't come back and take you down. Right? You do that, then guess what? You don't have to worry about the repercussions after the fact. But if you fail, you should get the full force of the law on your fucking head. I don't care how bad you think your rights are violated. I don't care all this other bullshit. They should come down with the full force of the law on your ass. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a dumb white guy from fucking Ohio or if you're the fucking new Black Panther movement. right? You're going to go and try to take down the government, motherfucker, you better not miss. And if you do, you face the fucking consequences. Period. Point blank.
Don't challenge the throne.
Right? Do not take a shot at the throne if you're going to fucking miss. Right? The problem with January 6th is, here's my concern about January 6th. I saw a bunch of dumb, drunk, stupid, half-cocked, overweight, out of shape, nonsensical motherfuckers go over to the Capitol and they ran all our leaders underground and we had no way to get control over it for fucking however many hours.
Yeah, 4 hours, I think.
You know? Like, just a bunch of bumbling idiots, literally ran the Capitol and had these people underground scared, Mike Pence running around for his life. They're going to threaten to hang him. Like, you had a few guys with guns and guys with zip ties and some dude walking around with a fucking buffalo hat on. And they damn near took our government down.
I mean, yeah.
They damn near took our government. Oh, well, Trump didn't make the order and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't give a fuck who's giving the order. Like, somebody has got to be able to prevent that group of fucking dipshits from doing what they did. And if we can barely stop them, what the fuck happens when you actually get trained people who are on a mission who won't be stopped? Because we know those people exist. I know I talk about this and you guys all think I'm fucking crazy and you think it's all blah, 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 blah. But you have people who are trained who don't stop, who don't fail, who don't fuck up missions. Right? And if you get the wrong group of people doing that thing that you say can't be done, man, y'all fucking around with the wrong, like, that's why you have to take this shit serious.
All right,
and it's not at you. I'm just saying.
No, I understand. I'm just saying that. All right, what you're basically saying is there are people with legitimate skills, legitimate training, with the same notion as the fat slobs that were, banging down doors and kicking in windows and taking a shit in Nancy Pelosi's office. And if those folks had been organized and equipped, then January 6th, as bad as it was,
would have been way worse.
A whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I'm the guy who said, I'm scared about that day. So, it's not a victory lap. It's a badge of shame. No, I told you. Yeah, right. we talked about it. I'm not saying
and I guess my point with the whole victim mentality thing is, though, like, that
fuels the mentality of what you're describing.
Right, like, and for me, right, as a black man in this country who has experienced direct racism from police, from people in positions of authority, right, my answer to you is I've survived and been successful because I fucking fight. I'm an intense person, as you know. I do not back down. I don't back down from anybody. Nobody. I don't care what your title is, right? I don't give a fuck about titles. I don't care if you can fire me. I don't care what you think that you can do to me.
I'm having a flashback to you lighting your boss up in Vegas.
But my point is that I don't back down from you, and I don't care if you think that I should, right? Like, that shit does not apply to me, right? And I don't think it, like, I will not back down. So my answer to you, if you feel like a victim, fucking 50-year-old white guy, or 16-year-old white girl, or 13-year-old black girl, or whoever you are, fight like a motherfucker. That's how you fix. That's how you fix your position of being a victim.
I want to expand on what I just said, because no one's going to understand it. Don't get. No, you're proud of yourself. Go. I'm in Steve's hotel room in Vegas. He's wrapping up a conversation with one of his bosses,
the CEO.
The CEO. I was going to name names or titles, and it ended with this. Yes, sir. I did show you that. In fact, it was in the document that you signed.
Look, so this is what happened. I had asked him. He had asked about something that was in a document that I had submitted to him.
Now, I'm on the sidelines, just having a drink and whatever.
He asked me about something that he wasn't clear on, and he wanted more information on it. So I give him more information, and he says this is all new to him. This is all news. Right? And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, we've gone through this, we've discussed it, you've actually seen paperwork on this before. He says no, he hasn't. And I point out the fact that, well, not only have you seen it, but you allegedly read it and you signed it and dated it on such and such date. So the whole idea that you hadn't seen it.
I'm looking out the window at the pool at Bally's, looking at bikinis and whatever, and I'm listening to that, and I have to keep my mouth shut because I can't. It was fun stuff.
But it's true though.
No, I never said you were wrong. I never criticized.
Motherfucker, you signed it. It's not my fault. You didn't read it.
It was hilarious. All right, and I'm backing you up. I mean, whatever. All right. Real quick, let's wrap up with some NFL talk. The NFL season's around the corner. Deshaun Watson's official punishment has come down. 11 games, $5 million fine.
Yep.
And you said told me.
Well, no, not you. I'm saying in general. So I thought he was going to get.
You thought it was a season.
My position, he should have been suspended for a season, right? I thought the judge was going to do it. Comes out the judge didn't want. Like the judge said that he had committed some egregious acts. But she decided that she was going to rely heavily on NFL precedent, which I thought was a totally terrible read by her because you've got a new collective bargaining agreement. You've got a new system for dealing with disciplinary issues. So the bar is reset in terms of precedent. She didn't see it that way. She's a federal judge. She was fucking wrong. So Roger Goodell in the NFL also agreed with me and said, all right, well, because we had this amendment, or we have this caveat in the CBA that we can appeal your ruling when you fuck up, which you clearly just did, we're going to go ahead and use that. So they appeal it and say, we're going to review it, we're going to look at it. You only gave him 6 games, we think he should get a year and a $10 million fine. So then the NFL says, look, if you don't want him to cook for a year and a $10 million fine, I suggest you come to the table with a realistic punishment for the actions that the man committed. So the NFLPA... Now, everyone was just like, oh, well, if the NFL overrules them, they're going to sue. Well, the problem is that the NFL or the NFLPA realized that if they took this, if they let the NFL make a decision overruling Sue Robinson, that an appeal being challenged in court loses, right? And Deshaun Watson probably ends up getting a more severe punishment because chances are it would probably flow over into the 2023 season because of the back and forth with the court and everything else. So the NFLPA comes in and says, okay, fine, we'll settle this. All right, let's settle it. Let's agree on 11 games and $5 million fine. The money goes to charity, whatever. And that's how they come to this agreement, which to me is, I'll accept it. I think it's much more substantial because, look, it has a hugely negative impact on the Browns season. Yeah. So, yes, they get punished, but they also knew who and what they were dealing with when they traded for him. So they, you get hurt because you brought this guy in and you knew it was a risk. It's also the reason why you only paid him $1 million this year on a $230 million contract, right?
Right. So every game check is minimal. See, all right. I don't think they could have fucked this up. The Browns organization could have fucked this up.
Before we get to the football part, though, there is one part that can't be lost in this. Whether you think the women that accused Deshaun Watson of these actions, if you think that a lot of them were scam artists or gold diggers or they knew what they were getting into, and we want to go down the road of victim blaming, scumbag move, but okay. But understand this. There are some women coming out of this who, some of these women have not been able to work since. They're dealing with trauma. They're seeing therapists. They don't feel comfortable around men. And this has completely disrupted and impacted their lives in a negative way. And I think that's the part for me that I struggle with the most because, and look, it's the same thing you had to deal with Ben Roethlisberger. It's the same thing that you had to deal with Kobe. Can they be redeemed as men? Yes, but then you still have a victim, and that's irreparable harm.
And I've not taken a strong stance on this because I did not listen to. I know that 2 of the women appeared on Real Sports on HBO. I didn't see it. I didn't know. I don't know how bad it was. So I've always been in the camp of whatever consenting adults do. Now, this clearly was not fully consensual. I don't have the understanding and the knowledge to take a stand. But it sounds pretty awful. Right.
And, again, it's one, you have to look at the number of women, right, involved in this.
That's the fucking crazy part.
I mean, you've got 24. I mean, like he had 60 different massage therapists in 18 months. You've got 30 that have some sort of a complaint. You've got settlements with 24, 25, 26 of the women. You still have women out there that are suing him. Like you have an issue here. This is beyond just a fetish, look, I don't kink shame, do your thing, but with that high level of a profile, with the access to resources that he has, there's just no reason that he couldn't find a better way to live out his fetish.
The whole dumb factor of this.
Right, which is what I've said for the longest time is the reason why, if I'm the NFL, I suspend his ass for a year because you're fucking stupid. Right?
You're not wrong, because you can
afford to go to fucking San Bernardino and just go be in a shoot and have the film never released. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Look at Greg Hardy. What Greg Hardy did years ago. I mean, he literally beat the shit out of a woman. It was one of the most egregious things I've ever seen. He got, I think, an 8-game suspension, and that guy should have never played in the league again. Agreed.
Right?
Like, I mean, and yet it was as bad as it gets.
Right? Ray Rice knocked that woman out. Knocked his fiance out or whatever.
His wife,
in an elevator, and he never played again. I don't have a problem with it, but the NFL fucked up there because they originally gave him a 2-game suspension, and then the video came out, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So the NFL had some issues that they were trying to clean up here, and I think that they did the right thing by pushing back against the 6-game suspension. I think the 11-game suspension with the $5 million, like from an administrative standpoint, I can live with. But I say that acknowledging that there are actual victims here who have been negatively impacted in a way that I think is forever. And you have to remember that, and you should be forced to remember it if you're going to applaud one way or another any of this, and then try to turn the focus back to football.
I hear you. I'm not going to push back. All right, man, we got to roll, but I want to talk about this real quick because we talked about this earlier today. Game of Thrones is doing a prequel.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion about where we stand on this, and it did not.
Well, I don't know. I don't think my stance on this was ever fully expressed. So here's the thing: I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to watch this. My feelings are still hurt from the way they ended Game of Thrones. So just terribly. That I don't know if I can handle it emotionally to get reinvested into Game of Thrones again, only for it to come crashing and burning into the end. I don't know if I can handle that. That being said, we know the stories can be really intriguing. We know it can be really dramatic. And I think that I think it has the potential to be good. The question is, how long am I going to not watch out of spite? That's the real question. That's the answer that I know.
We're on the same page there, because I will not jump into this. I was so bitter about how badly that series ended. And I loved it so much. And we talked about it on the show. I loved that series. I loved it so much. I thought it ended horribly.
And you called it out before the show ended, like season 7 or whatever. You're just like, look, I mean, when they do this last season, it could be really bad. I'm like, there's no way it could be bad.
You acknowledged it on the show.
Yeah, they listen. They've got the books to go off of. They go blah blah blah. It's gonna be fine. There's no way that they're gonna fuck this up. You are crazy. Then first few episodes. Right, I think the first 4 episodes or however many
when they went past the book.
Right, like the first half of that last season was actually really good.
Okay, I agree.
Right, and then all of a sudden, like it dove right with a anvil off the cliff and ended with such a
formulaic, annoying, unlike everything it had done.
I was going to describe it as like being tied to a table and someone shitting on your face. That's how bad.
I'm sorry I couldn't be that articulate.
That's how bad the end of Game of Thrones was once you got past like the 4th or 5th episode of that last season.
What a fucking...
And I can't go through that again. So I just need them to realize, like, they can't, if I watch this, they can't fuck it up. Because if they do, like, I will find someone and hurt them.
Well, like, it's probably going to be me, so fuck you. Fuck you, George R. R. Tolkien. Or what's his name?
George R. R. Tolkien. You put them together. Lord of the Rings. You put all the rings and the throne together.
George R. Martin. George R. R. Martin. Oh, my God. All right, I'm done.
You brought Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and South Park together. Because Tolkien's real name was Tolkien.
We are asking Congress on Instagram and Twitter. We're done. I don't want to be part of this anymore.